So I work for a nonprofit called the Oceanic Preservation Society. And that organization, initially, our focus was to document things around the world that are happening to the oceans, both good and bad, what people are doing in their own communities and around the world, that whether it be trash or coastal development, be it commercial real estate or power plants or beach cleanups on the good side and things that people are doing in their communities. So we traveled to Hawaii, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, all over the US and into South America to document these things. And we were going to make a series of 1 hour long for cable television.
La principal idea era hacer como capítulos de 1 hora a partir de una asociación a la cual, de la cual presidí yo, que se dedica a vigilar todo lo que tiene que ver con el ambiente marítimo y todo lo que sucede ecológicamente. Entonces la idea principal era hacer capítulos de 1 hora para televisión.
Sí. And then my director went to a marine mammal conference in Southern California with 2,000 of the world's greatest scientists, oceanic scientists. And he met the central protagonist in our film, Rick O'Berry, there.
Bueno, que el director fue a la conferencia principal de mamíferos marítimos en San Diego, y ahí fue donde conoció al personaje principal de la película, que se llama
Rick O'Berry. And he was to be the principal keynote speaker, and 2 hours before he was supposed to speak, they pulled him from the ticket. And so my director says, why is this happening? So he finds him and he finds out that he's going to speak about the captive dolphin industry and the subsequent slaughter of dolphins that goes on in Japan.
Él era el principal expositor en esta conferencia y 2 horas antes de la conferencia decidieron sacarlo, y en este caso el director dijo, pero ¿por qué pasó esto? Y era porque él iba a hablar de una masacre que había con los delfines en una región de...
And he was pulled from the lecture because the sponsor of the conference was SeaWorld, which is owned by Anheuser-Busch, which is a huge corporation, and he wanted us to speak.
Que decidieron sacarlo porque la conferencia estaba patrocinada por SeaWorld, que es parte de una corporación inmensa que se llama Oceanic.
So my director then went to find Rick O'Berry and say, what's the deal? And so he showed him a short video and 1 week later, my director was in Japan and he observed what was going on in Taiji, and then we stopped production on everything and we focused on this, and we decided to make a film about that, and that's where I got hired. I wasn't even working for that. That's where they called me inside.
Entonces en ese momento vio un video y el director decidió que todo lo que tenía pensado lo tenía que ponerle una terminación en ese momento y volver a pensar lo que estaban haciendo, y fue en el momento en que ya entró.
So at that point we entered the belly of the beast, as it were. It was suddenly we knew that there was something out there that was happening that no one knew about around the world, even in Japan. People 2 hours away from Taiji have no idea this is happening. And so our focus then was to create a film that was going to objectively present the facts. The first thing I would say about your production is to keep it as simple as possible, obviously. We had only 4 people working, but I had no less than 60 cases of gear every time I went to Japan. It's massive. I mean, it practically fills this room for 5 guys. It was insane. That being said, we knew to a certain degree what we were going to accomplish every day. The director had in his own mind certain things that he didn't share with us because I think it kept us in the moment and kept us hyper aware of what our responsibilities were. But he maintained the integrity of his own artistic vision by bringing us slowly along on the trip with him, and it forced us to execute very specifically and target our actions to accomplish the most that we could in the shortest amount of time.
que básicamente no había un plan definido, ¿no? Lo que iban teniendo es que les llegaba todo este material inmenso, ¿no? Que podría llenar este salón de lo que se estaba filmando, y que de alguna manera ellos tenían la responsabilidad, estaban trabajando él y otras 4 personas, y tenían la responsabilidad, o el director intentó llevarlos también poco a poco, y de esa manera también ellos, y como parte de la producción, respetar su visión artística en la idea que traía concebida.
And I'll say this, as the production manager, there was no one that was more frustrated at times on the set than myself, because it was hard. He would wake up in the morning and we were on our way to Tokyo, and all of a sudden we're going to Osaka. And he calls me up and he says, Joe, I need a blimp, a truck, and 4 tanks of helium tomorrow in Japan. You know, and so you have to make these things happen. But we accomplished them because we believed in what the director was, what his vision was, even though we didn't know what it was. And I would say to you that regardless of the production nightmares and headaches that you may have along the way, that, I don't know, it's hard to say this, I hesitate to say the director is always right, but the director is almost always right. You know? And ultimately, over the course of 2.5 years, there were many times where I was challenged to figure out exactly why we were doing the things that we were doing, and what the ultimate, what it was going to accomplish was. But at the end of the day, every day, when I laid my head down on my pillow for 2 or 3 hours a night, the integrity of the project kept showing itself to me on a grander scale. And so I would suggest to you that as frustrating as production can become sometimes, that your director has more than likely his own integrity first and foremost on the line, and most people aren't going to put themselves in a position to make fools of themselves in their professional context. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because we all have seen movies that are horrible. But ultimately, in the documentary world, I think it's different than creating a movie for entertainment. You know, this movie is more than $10 and a box of popcorn. This movie will make you walk away and have conversations not only after the film, but the next day.
Creo que como coordinador de producción, obviamente se enfrentaba a muchos retos diarios, ¿no? Que podían ser como muchos dolores de cabeza para él, pero que tenía que confiar en el director, ¿no? Que podría tener un plan de trabajo donde un día tenía que ir a Tokio y le hablaba horas antes y decirle que tenía que irse a Osaka y que tenía que conseguir un dirigible y un camión, y de alguna manera yo lo que intentaba hacer era que él dice que duda al decir que el director siempre tiene la razón, pero sí puede decir que el director casi siempre tiene la razón. Entonces, confiando en eso y en la integridad de este tipo de proyectos, y la integridad y la visión que tiene el director, él realizaba o hacía todo el esfuerzo posible para realizar como estos cambios de producción y tener todo lo que...
¿Cuál fue el proceso de edición que siguieron ustedes? O sea, porque tenían demasiado material. ¿Y qué rutas siguieron para lograr esto? Porque supongo que tenían material para dar el 100, entonces un poco eso.
How was the process of editing and the route you approach in order to order this bunch of material? If you can tell.
How was the process of editing?
Of editing.
My director spent 1 year watching every single second that he recorded. 1 year.
Se pasó un año viendo cada uno de los segundos.
With an assistant editor. And then we brought on an amazing man named Jeffrey Richmond, who edited Sicko, the Michael Moore film, and he edited a movie called Murder Ball, which is about paraplegics returning from the war that play rugby.
Bueno, que primero contrataron un asistente de editor para ayudarle al director, luego contrataron a Jeffrey Richman, que es el editor de Sicko y de Murder Balls, que habla de parapléjicos.
So remember that this is the first time we've done this, yeah? So at that point, we surrounded ourselves with really fabulous people that were really good at what they did, you know, which I can't express enough. The team of guys I worked with in the field were friends of mine before we made the film. So I have a different experience. These are like my brothers, you know. But they're talented men in what they do, and together, cumulatively, you know, the joke on the set was that we're all professionals, just not at this. And out of that, we were able to come together to make something pretty powerful. So I would suggest that that you surround yourself with the best people that you can, and that you watch every single second of your film. Like I said, nothing is outside the realm of possibility for being used. No matter how blurry or out of focus or whatever it may be, there's that part.
Que de alguna manera el mejor camino fue rodearse de los mejores profesionales que había, ¿no? Y que se volvieran